Call today's meeting of County Council to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilwoman Law, the optional prayer, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let us pray. Gracious God, you have shown your love to us in many ways, yet we struggle in our journey. Help us to use our experience as we go, to do our best in our duties as a community. We come seeking the skills to lead the people who trust us to make decisions for them. Open our eyes so we can clearly see our obligation, and ears so we can hear the wishes of the people, our minds to understand in response. We are blessed with many people that make such a difference in our lives. Thank you, Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Roll call, Mr. Smith.
Mr. DiMatteo,
Here.
Mrs. Fatica,
Here.
Dr. Faust,
Here.
Mr. Leone,
Here.
Mrs. Law,
Here.
Mr. Horton,
Here.
Chairman Brenneman.
Here. Hearing of the public, those who called ahead will have 5 minutes. Those who did not will have 3. On the list, we have Mr. Randy Barnes. Name and municipality for the record, please.
Yeah, Randy Barnes, R-A-N-D-Y-B-A-R-N-E-S. I come from Dr. Faust's district. Good evening, Chairman, council members, administration, guests. I'm here tonight to ask for your support. I did it via an email a couple weeks ago, but I thought it'd be official, put on record that I'd come down and ask for council support because so many good initiatives have failed due to lack of support. This support I'm asking for could come in the form of a resolution. And this resolution would acknowledge the importance of the Rural Regional College. The Rural Regional College, when first proposed, did not include Erie County. At the request of elected officials and community leaders, Erie was included. In fact, then State Senator Wiley co-sponsored the authorization legislation for the Rural Regional College. What I've been finding as I talk to people about the RRC is very few people even know much about it at all. And that's why I'm thinking that a resolution from the elected council would at least put it in the spotlight for maybe 1 or 2 days. One day it's in the news that you're going to sponsor or have a resolution, and another day it's in the news that you did the resolution. So it helps get the word out. But who else supports the RRC? Well, I can tell you that it was interesting, and I can appreciate the endorsement from the chairman of Empower Erie. Last week in the paper, the chairman of Empower Erie said, "I am a big supporter of the Rural College." Now, he went on to say that he had been working with that organization. And he also said but in Erie, we have different needs and we need to address. And I appreciate that we may have some different needs that the RRC hasn't been told about. Because I question, if we have these different needs, has the RRC been told about our different needs? Has it been documented that we've gone to the RRC and said we have different needs in Erie County versus the other 6 or 7 counties, and we would like maybe to address these needs? If that's been done, that's great. If it hasn't been done, is it because we as a group here, or there's a group in Erie that wants the RRC to fail? Is that what we want? Do we want something that taxpayers have funded, the legislature has passed in 2014, and we have people on staff and probably, maybe not 100, but maybe even hundreds of people working toward this? Are we as an elected body here to say that we want that to fail? I don't think so. I think we should give this a chance. And there may be other colleges or other opportunities later down the road, but the RRC is in existence. We need your support. They need your support. We need the county to do county council to do a resolution acknowledging the importance, helping get the word out. Now, granted, it's a 2-year program. It's an associate degree type program, but we learned at the Jefferson Society from the expert that many people that go on to like a community type college or an RRC like we have in existence take those 2 years worth of credits, then transfer to, I don't want to say more prestigious, but a name school like a Penn State or a Edinburgh or a Slippery Rock or some other school. They'll transfer after 2 years. And I think that's a fair shot to give this RRC your support. And I'm glad to go on record, on public, in the minutes, asking the 7 of you, I think it takes, what, one person to write the resolution and a second person to second it, I guess, second person to second, and have it on the agenda for a soon-to-be meeting. Hey, thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them. I don't have a lot because, again, this RRC is still kind of new, and I think it needs our help to get it off the ground and get moving. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wish to speak? Name and municipality, and you will have 3 minutes.
Good evening, members of the council and concerned citizens. My name is Jen Kohler, and I am the Director of Development at the Mercy Center for Women. The Mercy Center for Women is located on East 27th Street in Erie and provides safe and supportive transitional housing and counseling for homeless women and their children. The Mercy Center for Women is the only nonprofit organization in Erie County that provides transitional housing at its facility for up to 1 year. It is important to provide quality, affordable, and accessible education to women that have broken situations, fractured relationships, and circumstances. Many who are single mothers seeking to reclaim and rebuild their lives, and to provide a roadmap to financial independence, greater earning capacity, and a better way of life, not only for the women, but their children as well. As a community, we need to break the cycle of poverty and homelessness with education and opportunities. For more than 30 years, the local business and tech schools have pulled in and spit out thousands of young adults through their paralegal, graphic design, and auto body shop programs, just to name a few, without being able to place most of the graduates. This tells me that the schools gear the programs to what will entice the students to attend and not necessarily what will assist them with long-term careers. We need a community college in Erie that is unbiased and has our entire community's best interests at heart, including the residents of the Mercy Center for Women. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else from the public wish to speak? Anyone else from the public wish to speak?
I think she wants to.
Name and municipality, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Diana Ames and, I don't know, Erie?
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm going to speak to you about the community college. Education is a must. It's a human right, especially higher education. Excuse me. Sadly, in our circle here in Erie City and County, it appears to be elusive. We must acknowledge that education is not a luxury, but rather a necessity, given the poverty that many of us must endure. We in America are one of the wealthiest nations, and yet have the greatest void between wealth and poverty. Further, there's still more women head of households than men that also live in abject poverty. In addition, earn significantly less. That's what I get for running.
Oh, take your time.
Well, I'm old. I am. Really? I personally think there needs to be a shift. Education needs to be a priority and elevated to the point that its impact directly reduces poverty. Higher education must reach out to those impoverished to create the bridge necessary for them to succeed. Placing low and very low income individuals on a fast track to associate degrees results in worthwhile employment, thereby reducing poverty. And what happens if we, in fact, achieve that goal? Let me use my husband and myself as examples. We both have associate's degrees coupled with experience that has enabled us to be gainfully employed. And best of all, we set an example for our family. All of our 6 children and half of our grandchildren went on to higher education. With the exception of one, all of our children are homeowners like us. That means that we all pay taxes in one form or another. And history has shown that inequality is a reality. Education can reduce that and perhaps change that mentality. It can also increase function in our social order by recognizing that disparities impact achievement. The time has come for residents to demand a community college. We not only deserve it, we need it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public wish to speak? Anyone else from the public wish to speak? Last call. Okay, moving on from here in the public, we're going to move on. Do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
So move.
Moved by Mr. Leon, second by Mr. Horton. Any discussion? Roll call, Mr. Smith?
On the minutes, Mr. DiMatteo.
Yes.
Mrs. Fatika.
Yes.
Dr. Faust.
Yes.
Mr. Leon.
Yes.
Mrs. Law.
Yes.
Mr. Horton.
Yes.
Chairman Brenneman.
Yes. Reports of county officials, no report from the county executive, so we're moving on to the Finance Committee. Mr. Horton.
Good evening, everyone. The Finance Committee met on Thursday, April 27, 2017, and we approved for placement on the regular agenda under Old Business Item A, Ordinance 36, 2017, for a second reading, and under New Business Items A and B, Ordinance 38 and 39, both for second readings, along with Item C, which is Resolution 23, and Item D, to sell parcels from repository for unsold property. Item H added to tonight's agenda will be Resolution 24, 2017, in support of Jake's Law. That concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Horton. Other reports of county officials, Councilwoman Fatika?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. On April 26th, I attended the Erie Airport Authority meeting, and I just wanted to pass on some information. We've been asking for an increase in flights, and Delta has added an additional departure, so there will be 4 departure flights from Delta through the month of May. If they see that things are going well, this would be something permanent. And in addition, they're listening to the customers at the airport and looking at improving and upgrading the Wi-Fi service for the customers at Erie International Airport. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Moving on to old business. Second reading of ordinance number 36 in title only.
A second reading of ordinance number 36, 2017, 15th, 2017 general fund budget, supplemental appropriation of $4,800 and creation of line item for shared cost of East Bayfront parking ramp feasibility study.
So move.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Leon and seconded by Councilwoman Fatika. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. DiMatteo.
I know we discussed this in caucus. I understand the need for development and probably the need for parking and the parking spaces in the city of Erie. $4,800 is not a lot of money compared to the size of our budget. But again, at the end of the day, I really don't believe whether it's the parking authority, Hammett, or those involved, and whether who or who will not benefit from this parking. And I understand that the library is there and library customers would be able to use that, but quite frankly, at the cost to the Erie Parking Authority and not to Erie County in and of itself. And the short version is I will still be voting no to this.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Leon.
just as a reminder to, not only to Mr. DiMatteo, but to others, is we have a building down there, and that particular building houses our planning department. And if it wasn't for the approval of somebody that's doing business in that particular area to allow us to have certain parking places, we wouldn't even be able to go down there. So, this doesn't just benefit them. I believe this benefits the community as a whole. we need parking in that particular area, and I believe we're short in parking places there, and that's the reason why I'm going to vote for this.
Councilwoman Law?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did a little bit of homework on this, and I discovered that the library and the museum down there is expected to have over 300 parking spaces, and we're short about 200. And so this would give us, put us into compliance. And apparently, we applied for a variance for this and was denied. So we are out of compliance against the law, and we really should try to make sure this project goes through to completion, because that in turn would make us in line with the law. Thank you.
Councilman Horton?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to support this. I don't know if we should be seeing the project all the way through or not, but I believe the ordinance or the ask is for a feasibility study, which I have no objection to the study going forth. I must express my concerns about putting a parking structure on waterfront property at a time when most communities would do park and ride or shuttle people in. I think they wrote a song about it called Pave Paradise and put it in a parking lot. And so I will support the feasibility study, only to see if it has any merit to it. But I think it's a horrible idea to consider even putting a parking ramp. I think it's a disservice to all of Erie County, those who come down and view the bayfront, the resource that it is. And so I'll support the study and wait and reserve my my comments for anything going forward once the study is completed. That concludes my comments.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman DiMatteo?
Yeah, and just real quickly, and I agree with Mr. Leon 100%, but at the same time, there was a piece of property that was relinquished by the county to compensate for those spaces to a private developer so that we could garner parking spaces for the planning department. There was a piece of property that the county signed over. So it's irrelevant at this point. I'm just.
Okay. Councilwoman, did you have anything? No. I'll just say that, yes, we do have a legal obligation to the city to have this. I think since this is just a feasibility study, I think it's important that we don't just pass this and just let it go, but have an active role in some way to see where that might be shaped. Maybe the parking ramp is placed somewhere where it's not blocking the view, and it's better to build up than it is to build out. All waterfront development, particularly those in Pennsylvania, be it Allentown or anywhere else, or Baltimore, they rely on using parking garages. It's not so much that parking garages are bad, it's just about where you locate them. And I think that's where we have to make sure that we are part of that conversation, so that when the options come back and when council is approached again for whatever role it might have in whatever items are discussed, that we played a proactive role in to make sure that it doesn't hamper development on the waterfront and also the beauty of the waterfront. So moving on from there, roll call, Mr. Smith.
On ordinance 36, Mrs. Fatika?
Yes.
Dr. Faust?
Yes.
Mr. Leon?
Yes.
Mrs. Law?
Yes.
Mr. Horton?
Yes.
Mr. DiMatteo?
No.
Chairman Brenneman?
Yes. New business?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Leon.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like at this time to make some changes to the agenda. I'd like to consider a second reading for ordinance number 38, a second reading for ordinance number 39, and also to include resolution 24.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Leon and seconded by Dr. Faust. Any discussion? Roll call on the motion.
Dr. Faust?
Yes.
Mr. Leon?
Yes.
Mrs. Law?
Yes.
Mr. Horton?
Yes.
Mr. DiMatteo?
Yes.
Mrs. Fatika?
Yes.
Chairman Brenneman?
Yes. Second reading of ordinance number 38 in title only.
A second reading of ordinance number 38, 2017, First 2017 Gaming Fund Budget, supplemental appropriation of $64,278 for Youth Summer Jobs Program.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Dr. Faust and seconded by Mr. Leone. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
On ordinance 38, Mr. Leone,
Yes.
Mrs. Law,
Yes.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mr. DiMatteo,
Yes.
Mrs. Fatika,
Yes.
Dr. Faust,
Yes.
Chairman Brenneman.
Yes. Second reading of ordinance number 39 in title only.
The second reading of ordinance number 39, 2017, fourth 2017 Library Fund Budget, supplemental appropriation of $15,000 for donation from Friends of the Library.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Horton and seconded by Mr. Leone. Any discussion? Roll call.
On ordinance 39, Mrs. Law,
Yes.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mr. DiMatteo,
Yes.
Mrs. Fatika,
Yes.
Dr. Faust,
Yes.
Mr. Leone,
Yes.
Chairman Brenneman.
Yes. Possible adoption of resolution number 23 in title only.
Resolution number 23, 2017, Erie County General Authority, not to exceed $2 million tax exempt note, Lakeshore Community Services, Inc. project.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Horton and seconded by Dr. Faust. Any discussion? Roll call.
On Resolution 23, Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mr. DiMatteo,
Yes.
Mrs. Fatika,
Yes.
Dr. Faust,
Yes.
Mr. Leone,
Yes.
Mrs. Law,
Yes.
Chairman Brenneman.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Dr. Faust.
move to approve the sale of parcels from repository according to the index numbers listed in our agenda tonight.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Faust and seconded by Mr. Horton. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
On the sale of parcels, Mr. DiMatteo,
Yes.
Mrs. Fatika,
Yes.
Dr. Faust,
Yes.
Mr. Leone,
Yes.
Mrs. Law,
Yes.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Chairman Brenneman.
Yes. Resolution 24 in title only, please.
Resolution number 24, 2017, in support of Jake's Law.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilwoman Fatika and seconded by Councilman Horton. Any discussion? Roll call.
On Resolution 24, Mrs. Fatika,
Yes.
Dr. Faust,
Yes.
Mr. Leone,
Yes.
Mrs. Law,
Yes.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mr. DiMatteo,
Yes.
Chairman Brenneman.
Yes.
Move to adjourn.
Before we adjourn, I would like to announce for our viewers online and also for those who might be reading our minutes for whatever reason, that our first meeting on the road for the County Council's On the Road summer schedule is going to be held on Monday, May 15th, not on Tuesday because of the election. So it's Monday, May 15th, and it's going to be at East High School in Erie. And with that,
Move to adjourn.
we stand adjourned.